What comes to mind when you think of the Hagia Sophia Museum? Of course, the state of the Hagia Sophia Mosque before 2020 comes to mind. But now when you think of the Hagia Sophia Museum, don't think of the Hagia Sophia Mosque, because behind us is a magnificent historical building from the Ottoman era, the Ottoman cadastral building. Last year, the cadastral building was vacated. It underwent an amazing renovation, and for you, very special things were done. You know, I love to guide you through history and make you live it. But how successful I am at this with my narrative is debatable. And when technology comes into play, do you know what happens? It literally becomes a journey through time. During the Hagia Sophia tours, the era of Constantine, the era of Theodosius, the era of Justinian, and the conquest by Fatih are covered. I talk about Sultan Mahmud and Sultan Abdulmajid. But there is a building behind us. Inside this building, there are digital halls on 2 floors. You enter from the year 300 AD during Constantine's time and exit in 1935, and they make you experience history room by room, hall by hall. Are you ready? Today, I will make you experience this history. Yes, this is a YouTube video, but ultimately, I want to show you the beauty of this place, so that one day you might find your way to Istanbul's newest museum. Look, it's written in Ottoman Turkish above the door. The state of Haqqani writes, the state of Haqqani, the Ottoman Land Registry building. But today, it's possible to travel through time inside this building. Inside this building, you can go back to the era of Justinian, the era of Fatih, and the era of Sultan Abdulmajid, and personally experience the magnificent historical development process of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. If you're ready, we're going inside now. And step by step, we try to experience these. Let the Haqqani proceed. We've come to the most exciting part of the Hagia Sophia Museum. It's time. Look, I've experienced this adventure twice, from start to finish. There's nothing like it. I want everyone to experience this. And that's why I want to share this excitement within this beauty. There are many interconnected halls here, small and large. And these halls will take us on a journey through time, just so you know. And I thank the museum officials. They closed the museum to visitors for us. There are even music, effects, and giant screens playing. They turned down some of them as well, because I need to be able to speak. If you're ready, we start with the entrance. Then come the halls. Yes, here it is. In front of us, the first. When you enter this museum, you enter with headphones. Wherever you go, with the headphones, you automatically receive information related to that place. While you explore the museum thoroughly, you will experience these things yourself. I am merely trying to give you a superficial introduction to the museum. The founding of Istanbul, Constantine making it the capital of Rome, then constructing a new temple in his new capital, Justinian's third, the construction of Hagia Sophia, and then step by step. The conquest of the city during the Ottoman period. Step by step. In the Ottoman era after the city was conquered. The restorations of this work. First, the repair by Mahmud, the repair by Sultan Abdulmajid, and most notably the second touch by the hand of the great architect Sinan. The repair during the Selim period. In other words, a great temple, both the chief patriarchal church of the Roman Empire and the grand mosque of the Ottoman Empire. The visuals are very beautiful, well prepared. Special drawings have been made. They have been rendered in 3 dimensions. Truly a visual feast. Adi, you will be 1 in 300. Adi, you will exit in the 1930s. You will see all of these here. Meanwhile, we also see the Istanbul of the Roman Empire. And if you're ready, we are going upwards, because the real visual feast is now awaiting us. When we arrive at the museum, after the entrance section, you just saw the official. Look, there is an official at every corner here. They are waiting especially for you and are eager to assist. I have never seen a museum with so many staff until today. Someone takes you at every corner and another lets you go. One takes you, another lets you go. And they Take me into the elevator. The adventure starts from here. Even in the elevator, announcements are made in your ear. In other words, the signal from every place you are in tells you something, and it prepares you for the time travel above, step by step. Normally, we would like to convey those visual sections to you as well. We would like to transfer it from here, but it wouldn't be possible then. You should come to the museum. You must experience this excitement firsthand in this massive environment. Friends, we have arrived. This is a very interesting section. Literally, we are being transported 1700 years back from today. Look, here 2 separate sections have been made in 2 different segments, and the 3-dimensional atmosphere in the images has been created so beautifully. Of course, here there is an infrastructure, a music, the sounds of the waves you see, the sounds of birds, and the Istanbul of the Roman Empire 1700 years ago. We are currently at the Eminönü port. In other words, we are at the mouth of the customs, the Golden Horn. The historical Golden Horn walls. Look, we are moving forward, flying over the ship. And in front of us, we see Constantine. Constantine chooses Istanbul as the capital of the Roman Empire. He accepts Christianity as the official religion, and he wants to build a new temple in his new capital. Where will that temple be? It will be the great temple built on top of the pagan temple at the site of the old pagan temple, Hagia Sophia, a place known by its first name, Megali Ecclesia, referring to Hagia Sophia. A hippodrome will be constructed. Today's Sultanahmet Square, and next to it, a temple and a forum area will be built. That temple, this roofed building one you see here, it will become Hagia Sophia. 1. Hagia Sophia, and today, the 3rd. In the foundations of Hagia Sophia, that first, you can see traces of the first Hagia Sophia. Then, do you see that statue of a woman? This woman is the famous Eudoxia. Eudoxia will put herself in the spotlight. By building this monument in the garden and clashing with Chrysostom, the famous uprising will break out. The people will rise up to make a statement, and the first Hagia Sophia will be destroyed. 1. Hagia Sophia will be demolished, and on its ruins this time, the son of the woman who caused the destruction of Hagia Sophia, Eudoxia's son, the second, Theodora, 2, will rebuild Hagia Sophia. Look, in these halls at length, the history of Hagia Sophia in 3 dimensions, visual effects, sounds, and music take you away. Now we will move to another hall and continue the adventure of Hagia Sophia. Yes, automatic curtains open from hall to hall, and you enter. In front of you is Justinian. Yes, Justinian was originally a charioteer. He was someone who took care of the horses in the chariot races at the Hippodrome Square. His uncle became emperor in an interesting way, and Justinian found himself on the throne. The fact that a charioteer and his dancer wife became emperor and empress led to public outrage and uprising. And one of the worst major uprisings in world history. The Nika riots broke out. They attempted to set the entire city on fire, especially the second, Hagia Sophia. Justinian was considering fleeing. He was in the chalk palace. But his wife Theodora said, "I would prefer to die in my purple robes than to flee miserably." She encouraged her husband, gave him excitement. He asked how many men? 5,000, 1,000. But 100,000 people had gathered in the Hippodrome. What can I do against these people? Justinian sent his 5,000 men into the Hippodrome. The men entered the Hippodrome, closed the door, and massacred the entire crowd. That day they gathered in the square. According to some sources, there were 100,000 people, while others say 50,000. Half of them were massacred, and all those killed continue to lie today in the Hippodrome Square. So, one of the largest cemeteries in Istanbul today is not only Karacaahmet or Edirne Kapı Cemetery, but also the Hippodrome. What did Justinian, who suppressed this rebellion and emerged very powerfully from it, do? 3. He built the Hagia Sophia. Here we see Justinian in front of us. And the third one he built, the Hagia Sophia, stands before us. Look, the museum has truly done some wonderful things. The third, Hagia Sophia's drawings have been placed here. As you can see here, a historical library design has been made. We see the shiny books. An old parchment paper stretches out before us. And these drawings show us how the third Hagia Sophia was designed. There were two architects for Ager, Isidorus and Anthemius. Justinian called them. The dates were showing AD 532. He said, I want a temple, the third, Hagia Sophia, to be built next to the second, Hagia Sophia. But this had to be different. It had to have a dome. This Hagia Sophia had to compete with the Temple of Solomon. And Justinian gave the order. Isidorus and Anthemius opposed. They said, my king, my emperor, we cannot do it. Because there is a basilical plan scheme here. A basilical plan scheme, meaning rectangular. We cannot place a round dome on this, they said. But Justinian did not listen. He said, it will be done. And for the first time in world history, an attempt was made to place a round dome on a rectangular plan church. Unfortunately, it was not successful. These drawings, designs, debates, and ultimately a flawed Hagia Sophia building emerged. Details in the next hall. Look, very beautiful things have been done here. First of all, there is a massive rectangular stage on the sides of the stage which I just described to you. There are drawings by Isidorus and Anthemius. How do we place a round dome on a baldachin with 4 pillars? How do we support the pressure of this dome with the half domes on the sides? How do we lower the quarter dome extrados? They thought about this, and look, we see 2 men on the right and left in front of us. One of them is Isidorus and the other is Anthemius. They are thinking, look, we have 2 half domes on the right and left. With these 2 half domes, we can easily take the pressure of the weight downwards. But right now, as you can see, there is no half dome on this side or the other side. They are asking how we can eliminate this pressure. Unfortunately, they cannot achieve this. Shortly after this dome you see was built, some sources say 20 years, others say 30 years. In such a short time, the dome of Hagia Sophia collapses completely. And this time, Anthemius' nephew, one of the architects, is called upon to try to raise this structure. Again, we see Justinian's Hagia Sophia before us. And before us now stands the dome that has been raised. Hagia Sophia. Look, the architects Isidore and Anthemius have lifted their heads. And they are looking at the dome of Hagia Sophia, which is 32 meters in diameter. A magnificent, splendid work. But there is a problem. How long can this dome stand? And we are coming to a very interesting room. Look, when you enter this room, you should lift your head and look at its dome. Because this dome will collapse very shortly after Hagia Sophia is built. And they have designed it in such a way. Look, the dome is about to fall on top of us. All the bricks, one by one. Because it will open up. When it opens, the dome will be dismantled. Justinian will enter. At the first opening, he will lift his head and look up. He will shout, "O Solomon, I have surpassed you." Oh, Solomon. But this defiance will not last very long. Shortly after, you see the cracks. The structure collapses and that magnificent dome completely comes down to the ground. And now we are able to see the sky from inside Hagia Sophia. The grandson of one of the architects also became a famous architect. He is called upon and a special planning system is established with him. Look, you can see he is redrawing, writing, and making calculations. By keeping the dome's drum a bit higher, as you can see, Hagia Sophia is raised again with a new dome this time. But the ailments of this ailing structure do not find a solution. The person who will find a solution is Mimar Sinan. But before Mimar Sinan, when it was constructed, Justinian had an equestrian statue made. In today's square, a huge column capital with an equestrian statue on top. This equestrian statue was still present even during the conquest of Istanbul by Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. Look, we are moving to other halls. Halls with giant LEDs on both sides. That take us back to those days. There was an interesting period in the Roman Empire, iconoclasm. With the arrival of Islam in Anatolia, they were influenced by Islam. Are we worshiping these frescoes, icons, these statues, or are we asking from God? They said. And they initiated a period known as iconoclasm. During that period, including the churches in Cappadocia, especially Hagia Sophia, all the frescoes and icons in the name of Christianity were shattered, broken, and destroyed. And to this day, the frescoes and icons of today's Hagia Sophia belong to the period after iconoclasm. Look, there is a woman right behind us. Empress Irene the Seventh, will convene the council in Nicaea, a council where the army could not intervene. Frescoes and the iconostasis will be allowed again. And all the icons we see today in the upper gallery of Hagia Sophia will be made during that period. And before us is the enmity between the Catholic and Orthodox worlds. AD, we are in the thousands. Catholics and Orthodox will excommunicate each other. They will declare each other heretics. And a great schism will occur in Christianity. While Hagia Sophia was the center of world Christianity, it will now serve only as the patriarchate of the Orthodox world. What did Hagia Sophia look like when it was a church? If you're curious, a section has been prepared for us about this as well. Look, in Orthodox churches, there is a wall called the iconostasis. The iconostasis has various frescoes and icons on it and an ambo. Look, you can see here, this part still remains. This is the Ompolion, area where emperors were crowned. Right next to the Ompolion, directly opposite the Qibla apse, there is a pulpit. The ambo, directly opposite, is the sacred area. In Orthodox churches, there is a sacred area behind the iconostasis wall. Since Hagia Sophia was the main sanctuary, the iconostasis covered not just a wall, but a U-shaped area. And only special individuals could enter the sacred area behind the door you see here. The public remained behind the section you see here. During the Christian period, the structure was like this. The seraphim angels, with their faces uncovered, had taken positions with their wings around all four sides of the structure. They were holding it. A new chapter opens in our journey through time, and we are heading to another era. Between the years 1204, 1261, the Latin weapon that turned Istanbul into a bloodbath for exactly 57 years, that is the Fourth Crusade, Catholic Europeans had gathered together. Venetian Henry Dandolo was leading this effort. Their aim was to capture Jerusalem. They boarded their ships. They were going to travel by ship, second, third, and first. Unlike in the previous crusades, they did not want to go overland through Anatolia and be cut down by the Seljuks. But during the sea voyage, they were both crowded and had supply issues. They arrived in front of Istanbul and plundered the city to death, occupying it completely. Hagia Sophia experienced the greatest shame in its history during this occupation. They entered inside. They plundered all its treasures. They killed the clergymen. In fact, they gathered virgins and nuns who had dedicated themselves to God in different monasteries all around Istanbul. They locked them up here. And for a long time, they inflicted cruelty on those poor young girls in Hagia Sophia. The Latin occupation lasted for exactly 57 years. In fact, the Venetian king known as Henry Dandolo died in Istanbul shortly after the occupation. And as a result of this occupation, his tomb was built on the upper floor in Istanbul. And now crescents began to appear on the walls. The year was 1453. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror was about to take the city. We are approaching the front of the temple. Look, the hadiths of our Prophet, peace be upon him, are written. Constantinople will certainly be conquered. What a great commander is the one who conquers it. What a great army is the one that conquers it. The door opens, and now we enter the conquest of Istanbul, the capture of the city by the conqueror. In front of us are the banners with crescents. And now with these and the cannons cast in Edirne, we are approaching the city walls. An exciting anticipation begins. In other words, here every hall takes you to this century, to that century, and now we are on April 2, 1453. There are exactly 2 years until the fall of the city on May 29th. And the walls are in front of us, in front of the land walls of Istanbul. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror has set up his tent at Topkapi. He has reared his horse, towers, cannons, rifles, the soldiers, everyone is ready, and he gives the order to attack. This siege will last exactly 2 months. As a result, despite the truly great difficulties, it will conclude with the conquest. All plans will be implemented one by one, and the city will fall. Our museum consists of a total of 3 floors. Look, we have an exhibition floor. We also have 2 digital hall floors. We have completed one of our hall floors. Now we are moving to the lower floor. And on the lower floor, we are greeted by another hall floor. And now we will see the Ottomans' Hagia Sophia, step by step, with the conquest of Istanbul. In front of us are the walls remaining from the war. In front of the walls, martyrs and arrows shot, torn banners. And with the third defect system, we see a Constantinople. This Constantinople will be conquered as a result of a heavy 2-month siege and will emerge as Istanbul. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror will go directly to the main patriarchal church in this city you see and grant freedom to the people there. First, the cannons will roar, the magnificent cannons of the conqueror. His static cannons will resist with great destruction on these walls you see. If for a full 2 months, the chains of the Golden Horn will be stretched and the Golden Horn will turn into the world's largest and widest moat. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror will execute all his plans one by one. One of his plans is to transport the ships over land. Yes, on the night connecting May 28th to May 29th, with the ships descending from Dolmabahce Bay to the Golden Horn, along with these siege towers on the land walls, the city will be conquered. On the morning of May 29th, entrances to the city will begin both from the Halis walls and from the walls between Topkapı and Edirne Kapı. And the Ottoman flag will begin to wave on the city's walls. Yes, with the conquest of the city, Fatih will come to Hagia Sophia in the very first moments with the dust of his feet and inside this great temple. He will forgive thousands of Christian Romans who have locked themselves inside the temple, pleading for mercy. He will say, I have granted you freedom of life, property, worship, and travel. He will allow a 3-day plunder in the city. But entering homes is forbidden. Harming people is forbidden. Whatever you find on the street, that's it. Such a plunder will take place. Hagia Sophia, on Tuesday morning, when Istanbul was conquered, and 3 days later on Friday. They will prepare for Friday prayers, and 3 days later on Friday, Fatih and Akşemseddin, with the conquest soldiers, will worship here. Look, this is a very beautiful scene. We will see step by step how Hagia Sophia has come to these days. In the next hall, look, this is a very beautiful corridor. In this corridor, a summary of the Ottoman period of Hagia Sophia is presented. For example, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. What was done during the reign of Mehmed the Conqueror? A minaret was built for Hagia Sophia. His son, the second, during the reign of Bayezid II, another minaret was added. Look, the second, a minaret, step by step. All of these are explained. Here, an additional section was added to the madrasa built by his father on the side. Now we come to the second. We are coming to Selim. With the touch of Mimar Sinan, this second minaret was increased to 4. It was transformed into a structure with a total of 4 minarets. Those nearly 30 flying buttresses, fixed buttresses were added. And the structure was made massive with its 4 minarets and was preserved until today. And who was the man who made this possible? Of course, it was Mimar Sinan. 3, Murat, the interior, was constructed. 1, Mahmud, additional repairs were made. During the reign of Sultan Abdülmecid, it was repaired again with Fustatiles. But if it weren't for this man, Hagia Sophia wouldn't have survived to this day. Yes, the architects of Justinian gave us a Hagia Sophia temple. Mimar Sinan ensured that this work survived to this day without collapsing or disappearing. If it weren't for Mimar Sinan and the order given to him by the second Selim, Hagia Sophia Mosque would most likely not exist today. And we are entering. Now in front of us is the Ottoman era's Hagia Sophia. Look carefully. The construction of the first minaret during the Fatih period in 1453. The construction of a second main minaret during the Fatih period between 1453 and 1481. During the reign of Bayezid II. After 1481, Bayezid's Third, construction of the minaret, the dismantling of the minaret from the Fatih period, and the reconstruction of those two large, thick minarets by Mimar Sinan. Look, Fatih's small minaret is being removed. While two minarets were a structure, the minarets you see now were added. It was turned into a structure with 4 minarets. Suleiman the Magnificent never saw these 4 minarets. During the construction of Sultan Abdülmecit Fosreti, these additional pediments are made. The structure is reinforced, and it is brought to the form you are familiar with today, and also painted. With beautiful yellow and orange stripes, the Hagia Sophia Mosque was handed over to the Republic of Turkey with this appearance. Here before us are those who have seen, admired, and drawn the Hagia Sophia Mosque throughout history, famous painters. While you are touring this museum on your own, through your headphones, you will hear what I have explained. Perhaps 50 times more information will be provided. Each of these foreign painters will be discussed individually. For example, you see Sultan Abdülmecit's Friday procession, and the procession was drawn by the Fostatals. They drew from the minarets. They drew from the domes. They transferred this structure onto paper step by step with images from different centuries. And they made it possible for us to see. While the Fostatals were restoring Hagia Sophia, they removed the plasters. They uncovered the frescoes and icons underneath, and they drew them and then covered them again. So all the drawings you see in this hall from A to Z take us to those days and to the different forms and symbols that Hagia Sophia took on through the hands of the painters of those days. Do you see the seraphim? Their faces are uncovered. From Fatih to Mahmudi. The evidence that the faces of the seraphim were uncovered is the engraving you just saw. For example, and next there is another section. The magnificent engravings of the Fosstatites, which beautifully reflect Hagia Sophia's transformation into a mosque, including colored engravings. The Fosstatites repaired Hagia Sophia from top to bottom between 1850 and 1855. Normally they came to Istanbul by the order of the Russian Tsar, and they built the Russian consulate building on Istiklal Avenue. Sultan Abdülmecit saw them and liked them very much. He said that our Süleymaniye and Hagia Sophia are also in need of repair. He asked if they could lend a hand to these as well. These two architect brothers lent a hand. Meanwhile, they made drawings of Hagia Sophia, which was a mosque between 1850 and 1855, with their engravings, including the decorations of that day, the architecture of that day, and in the mosque of that day. They drew people walking around, sitting, standing up, worshiping, praying, and conversing. And in the presence of these magnificent Hagia Sophia engravings, we see these. During their restoration, Hagia Sophia was adorned with the famous calligrapher Kazasker's giant 7.5 meter diameter plaques, those large plaques. And this structure was also adorned with the verse bands you see. However, underneath was the Pantocrator. And we continue. We have reached the end. When we arrive here, accompanied by the images of Hagia Sophia as a mosque, the museum has a surprise for you. Get ready, it's coming. Meanwhile, our video is not ending. After this, I will take you upstairs. And upstairs, this time I will tell you about the Hagia Sophia objects that have come from history to the present in the showcases, both from the Christian and Islamic periods. You are coming here. You have seen everything. You have traveled through time, and in front of you, when we say Hagia Sophia Museum, it brings to mind the museum period of the Hagia Sophia Mosque, but no, that's not it. This is the Historical Land Registry and Cadastry building. It's right next to the famous obelisk that came from Egypt in Sultan Ahmed Square. This museum has exactly 3 separate floors. 2 floors consist of digital halls. It takes you on a journey through time, so to speak. 1 floor has the classic museum display cases we know. There are exhibition items, but the items on display are real objects from the magnificent and extensive history of Hagia Sophia that have survived to the present day, transporting us to those times. As soon as you enter this floor, you are first greeted by a historical timeline. In other words, the history of Hagia Sophia begins with the Roman Empire, with Constantine, who made Istanbul the capital of Rome. For this reason, Constantine first accepts Christianity as the official religion. He declares Istanbul as the capital of the Roman Empire, naming it Constantinople, and says that there should be a temple for the new religion in the new capital of my country, the Roman Empire. And Hagia Sophia is first built during the reign of Constantine for this purpose. As you can see, AD, it begins in 360, the adventure of Hagia Sophia. It is open for worship under the name Megali Ecclesia. And step by step, the steps to Hagia Sophia Dua. Theodosius is all three. Hagia Sophia, the earthquakes experienced by Justinian. Lootings, plunders, the Latin occupation from 1204, 1261. From there we move to this side. 1453, the conquest of Istanbul by Fatih. The era of Fatih II, by Yazid Yavuz Suleiman the Magnificent II. The greatest restoration during the reign of Selim I, the restoration during the reign of Mahmud I. As we talk about the restoration during the reign of Sultan Abdülmecid, the period of the Republic of Turkey. The closure of Hagia Sophia as a place of worship and its conversion into a museum. The process that continued until today, and ultimately its reopening for worship on July 24th, 2020. You can come here and examine this historical timeline step by step yourself. Wait a minute. 3. What did Ahmed III do? 3. How did Mahmud II affect Hagia Sophia? I don't know. Before Sultan Abdülmecid, who did what? You can see all of these on site. And we continue. Look at, what does it say? The period when it was a church, a cathedral between 537 and 1453. Now, this was an Orthodox patriarchate. When this monument was built, the Roman Empire had not yet split Christianity into Orthodox and Catholic. During such a period, Christianity was first allowed freely by Rome, became the official religion of the Roman Empire, and for the first time, a main temple was built for the religion of Christianity, which was the official religion of the Roman Empire. Normally, before Hagia Sophia, there were many churches in Christianity. In Antioch, there is the earliest church, St. Peter's. There are many clandestine churches in the Cappadocia, Ürgüp-Göreme region. But it is the first temple built officially in the name of world Christianity. So what do I say in the videos? Hagia Sophia is the Kaaba of the Christian world. If you look at it from this perspective, RD. Let's talk about the 1,000-year church period now, between 537 and 1453. First, we will talk about Constantine. Here, there's a bronze coin belonging to Constantine. It is truly very interesting. This is a coin minted during the time of Constantine, and it is found in excavations in Istanbul. Constantine made this place the capital, you know. For example, the painting on wood you see in the middle is extremely interesting. It belongs to John Chrysostom. Who is Chrysostom? 1. The man who caused the destruction of the first Hagia Sophia, Patriarch Chrysostom. In those days, there was a queen named Eudoxia among Constantine's successors. 1. Theodosius has 2 sons, Arcadius and Honorius. Arcadius becomes the Eastern Roman Emperor. Honorius becomes the Western Roman Emperor. The father divides the state between his 2 sons. Arcadius has a very ambitious wife, Eudoxia. She has a statue erected in the garden of Hagia Sophia. The people come to the fortress, and in the ensuing uprising, Hagia Sophia is destroyed. So what does this rebellion have to do with Chrysostom? When Eudoxia places the statue in the garden of Hagia Sophia during the Sunday service, Chrysostom, the chief patriarch, steps up to the ambo. There, he harshly criticizes Eudoxia. After the service, Eudoxia exiles Chrysostom to the islands. The people, dissatisfied with the administration, are looking for a place to revolt, and they do. And as a result of this uprising, what do they do to become a trending topic? 1, they set Hagia Sophia on fire. Exactly like that. Look, here we see a gold coin. A gold coin belonging to Theodosius III. 1. Who was Theodosius III? After Constantine, his son Constantine came. Then his nephew, Julian, came. He even returned to paganism. Then Theodosius I came. Theodosius came. The obelisk that came from Egypt in Sultan Ahmed Square. On the base below, we see him with his family and soldiers and administrators among the people. We see this in the reliefs. 1. The golden solidus of Theodosius there. and the division of Rome into east and west with him. The Evdoxia we mentioned, along with the Chrysostom crisis, led to the destruction of Hagia Sophia the Fir. Hagia Sophia I was destroyed. 2. Who built Hagia Sophia? 1. The grandson of Theodosius III, the man who minted that golden solidus, his son. The son of Eudoxia, who caused the destruction of Hagia Sophia. 2. Theodosius II. During the reign of Theodosius II, Hagia Sophia was constructed. A very constructive ruler. Today the land walls of Istanbul are DA2, Theodosius II. Look, we see an entrance portal with a triangular pediment, columns with composite capitals of acanthus leaves. During the 1935 excavations, these stairs and the bases of these columns were uncovered one by one. How were they uncovered? They were uncovered like this. Do you see? Look at the photograph. In 1930, Hagia Sophia was closed for worship. It was very sick, tired, and worn out. It needed to be restored. And during the restoration of Hagia Sophia, many Byzantinists came from America and Europe. German Schneider excavated the front area in front of the first narthex. And during the excavation, look, you can see the steps and column bases of the second Hagia Sophia of Theodosius II were uncovered. The steps and column bases were revealed. This photograph is from the year 1935. Even this tuck door you see here, the sheep reliefs on the edges of its frieze were also found. 12 sheep. It symbolized the 12 apostles of Jesus. Look, you can see the sheep much more clearly from here. There is even a palm tree in front of them. Here is a marble piece belonging to one of those sheep unearthed during the Hagia Sophia excavations. As you can see, the statue head, the sheep head, is standing here. Look again at the front of the narthex of Hagia Sophia in the 1935 period. In the background, the second one built by Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. Renovated during Mehmed's period, unfortunately. We see the Hagia Sophia Madrasa, which was demolished at the end of 1935. This is the madrasa building you see here. This building has not yet been demolished. Look, the building is still standing strong. And during the excavation, the second one, to the marble floor of Hagia Sophia. Look, what you see in front of us are also a set discovered during the excavation stunts of the original Hagia Sophia in 1935. Architectural pieces. Look, this is one of the finest examples of Eastern Roman architecture. Look, I'm trying to show you without touching the stone at all. Do you see the gaps underneath them? Look, my finger goes inside. Do you see the gaps? They are hollow underneath. In other words, they carved a solid stone like a cage. They went underneath and created an incredible piece of art. This is also another piece uncovered during the 1935 excavations. Architectural pieces buried under the soil from the destruction of Hagia Sophia are being unearthed and attempted to be moved by walking them over planks. During the excavations, not only ancient Roman and Christian Roman remains were found, but also some structures from the Muslim and Ottoman periods. For example, what you see here. Some ceramic pieces from the Eastern Roman, Christian Roman period. In other words, tiles from that time with us. We have ceramics, we have porcelain. In Rome, in Eastern Rome, there are ceramics. Look, these have emerged. What you see here, belonging to the Christian Roman period, used there and somehow broken, remain buried under the soil. Unearthed during the 1935 excavations. Look, for example, here we now see the third. We see Hagia Sophia. In other words, the Hagia Sophia built by Constantine was destroyed by a public uprising. The second, Theodosius' Hagia Sophia, was also by Justinian. Normally, a young man who worked as a stableman at the Hippodrome in the square, whose wife was also a dancer there, performing as a dancer. Their marriage and somehow becoming emperor and empress, the discomfort felt by the white Romans, led to the Great Nika Revolt. Theodosius II led to the destruction of Hagia Sophia. This gold coin you see belongs to Justinian. He was a very talented, very intelligent young man. Not the emperor. Actually, his uncle Justinian entered the palace as an advisor. Yes. His uncle was normally the emperor's personal guard in the palace. When the emperor died without leaving any heirs, Justinian was declared emperor by the guards. He took his nephew with him, thinking he might know how to read. Justinian became emperor at the end of his uncle's 7-year reign when his uncle died. The third, the construction of Hagia Sophia was his fortune. So the third, Hagia Sophia, thanks to Justinian, and we are presented with a gold coin from the time of Justinian. That coin was minted exactly 1500 years ago. Meanwhile, on this information board we see there is a very interesting miniature. This is very intriguing. Look, here we see the Hagia Sophia mosque. The mosque has one minaret. If there is only one minaret, it means the era of Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. Because during the time of Fatih's son, the second Hagia Sophia mosque, during the reign of Bayezid II, a minaret was added. And again, in the same miniature, we see an equestrian statue next to the single minaret Hagia Sophia mosque. It is the equestrian statue of Justinian. Normally, it stood over the square at Hagia Sophia. Later on, the stone it stood on was taken down, and this metallic statue was preserved for a while. Then it was melted down and used for other purposes. It belonged to Justinian. Here, the Hagia Sophia mosque's Roman bricks and the stamps on the bricks from the period when it was the patriarchal church during the Roman Empire truly excite us. Look here at numbers 1 and 2. Bricks remaining from Rome. Look carefully at them. It says Megali Ecclesia. So the first name of Hagia Sophia is Megali Ecclesia 1 and 2. Look, for example, right in the middle, that number 3 brick. On top of this is Emperor Maurice's. We see the monogram, Emperor. So it means this brick was produced during his reign. For example, that number 4 brick truly excited the researchers. It has been marked with fingerprints. Do you see? Quite beautifully, marks were made on it with fingers, while the baked brick was still wet and soft. The marks you see here belong to the fingers of a person who lived 1500 years ago. Truly exciting. We also see such inscriptions on some bricks. Look here, in 5 lines there are some writings from the Roman period, for example, traces of architects, a number of symbols belonging to the masters to whom the workers were affiliated are present in such restorations in structures. This place is very interesting. Look, what you see inside these showcases are original. They are fragments of wall mosaics from the church period of the Hagia Sophia mosque. In other words, during the time of Justinian AD, between the years 532-537, while religious-themed wall mosaics were being made in that picture, tiny colorful stones were used. Look, it's not painting. Original red stone, original yellow stone are found here. Human figures and wall paintings are made. Over time, these pieces fall off. The fallen pieces have been preserved. We see these pieces that have fallen from the original wall mosaics that are 1500 years old. Look at this one. It's a wall mosaic with gold gilding on it. It stands like this. What do these wall mosaics remind us of? During the reign of Sultan Abdulmecid, the Italian restorers collected these fallen mosaics and made a monogram for Sultan Abdulmecid. It brings to mind, and it stands over there. Today, when you enter the Hagia Sophia Mosque, go from the main entrance to the first narthex. On the wall of the first narthex in the upper right corner, the monogram of Sultan Abdulmecid, made by the restorers using stones from historical mosaics, is still hanging there as a mosaic monogram. Interesting. Ottoman monograms are always present, but we see a mosaic monogram there for the first time. As you can see, the column capitals belonging to Hagia Sophia, which I mentioned to you, look, do you see how they are hollow inside? They pass through them. What an art. It's like a 3-dimensional lattice made from a single piece of stone. They carved and prepared it in this way. In 1204, the Latin invasion occurs. The Catholic Europeans of the Fourth, while they were going to occupy Jerusalem during the Crusade, they stopped them and occupied Istanbul. This occupation lasts exactly 57 years. Hagia Sophia is subjected to very painful and distressing scenes. In other words, All kinds of disrespect are experienced in Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia, here we have a coin, a bronze, a copper coin, belonging to the Latin kingdom, established in Istanbul during the Latin invasion period for 57 years. On the front side of this coin is Peter, the greatest of the 12 apostles. There is an image of Peter. On the reverse side, there is a depiction of the Virgin Mary. We have finished this hall. Look, what does it say here? 1453-1934, meaning from the conquest of Istanbul to 1934, when the building was completely closed to worship and the decision was made for it to become a museum. During this period, as you see, Hagia Sophia served as a mosque. What remains from the Hagia Sophia that was a mosque to the present day? We will see them behind this door. As soon as we enter, we are greeted by the silver coin of Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. Look, it's tiny, about the size of your pinky nail, a coin. It has Mehmet bin Murad Han on it and Dur Befi Constantinia on the reverse side. Yes, it belongs to the conqueror. For example, what you see here is a part of the Quran. As you know, the Quran is composed of sections, each consisting of 20 pages. When people want to read the Quran, 30 people gather and 20 pages are distributed to each. One section of 20 pages can be comfortably read in half an hour. The entire Quran can be completed in half an hour by 30 people. That's why there are section boxes in mosques. Inside these boxes, the sections of 20 pages each are found in volumes. They are distributed to people and then collected again. This is original, registered to the foundation of Hagia Sophia Mosque, and it is written on it. Look, it says Hagia Sophia. Hagia Sophia the Great, did you see? The writing over there, that big writing. Hagia Sophia the Great. For example, during my childhood, I always wondered where we would be in Istanbul. I would wonder, would it be the Fatih Mosque or the Ayub Sultan Mosque? However, in all the records we have, it is referred to as Hagia Sophia the Great Mosque. So what does Kabir mean? In Arabic it means great. The Kabir in Allahu Akbar. What have we Turks done with this Arabic name Kabir? We have Turkified it to Ulu. Bursa's Great Mosque, Konya's Great Mosque, Diyarbakar's, and Istanbul's Great Mosque is also Hagia Sophia, Vusati the Great Mosque. So it is Hagia Sophia. For example, here is a water fountain bowl from the mosque period of Hagia Sophia. There are two water fountains, both outside and inside Hagia Sophia. At those fountains, we see a fountain where water or beverages were distributed to passers-by. Look, there is a tiny inscription on it. In that inscription, they have noted it as the foundation of the great Hagia Sophia, year 266. There are some Ottoman sultans who have contributed much more to the Hagia Sophia Mosque than others. One of them is Diwan, Mahmud. Mahmud's fountain in the garden, the primary school next to the entrance gate of the garden, the soup kitchen at the back, the library inside, and also the Sultan's lodge. That library is right in front of us. Unfortunately, today when we enter the Hagia Sophia Mosque, we cannot access this section of the library. This wooden structure with mother-of-pearl inlay, 300 years old from the tulip era, has survived to the present day. We cannot see the book, shelves. But these books, at least some of them, you will be able to see when you come to this museum. Look, right in front of us is the first. We encounter the catalog of the Mahmud Hagia Sophia Library. It is truly extremely exciting. Now, for example, come this way. Look, this is also a very interesting section, Noble. In other words, it's a section of the Quran, but the script. The script used in the earliest times of Islam is Kufic, and it's classic Kufic. Normally today we have manuscripts of the Quran belonging to Hafs. Osman and Haz, there are Quran manuscripts belonging to Ali. So like page copies, you look at it, the script is the same script. This script was used in the earliest period. And when we look at the seal on it, the first, it has been transferred to the present day from the library of Mahmud, Hagia Sophia. Very exciting. Oh, this is also very interesting. Do you know what this is? Apart from the Mamluks, the 20th part of the Quran. A part remaining from the Mamluks. This part of the Quran, meaning a whole part of the Quran, has been separated. Do you know Who gifted this to Osman? Berkuk, the first Circassian ruler of the Mamluk state. Look, during Berkuk's era, Osman and the Mamluks became very close because Timur wanted to enter Anatolia. Timur came to Anatolia twice. In the first instance, he entered eastern Anatolia and then returned. What is the reason for him coming and then returning? Osman had Yildirim Bayezid at its head, and the Mamluks had Berkuk. In those days, there was the Eretnaoğulları state. The son-in-law of the state, Judge Burhanettin, was governing the state. He was an incredible man. He gathered them all together, and Timur feared this alliance. When Timur came again a few years later, Judge Burhanettin had died. The alliance had disappeared. Timur came and hunted them down one by one. In other words, the inside of a Judge Burhanettin was with a Berkuk. It was 3-5 times more than Yildirim's. During the period of rapprochement between Berkuk and Yildirim, Berkuk, at that time, as you know, Egypt was a Muslim Turkish state, the Mamluks and Istanbulites. The Islamic Caliph has been living in Egypt for many years. Berkuk and the Islamic Caliph sent Yildirim Bayezid II. They sent the Quran. One is today in the Bursa Manuscripts Museum. 2, a very beautiful gift from Murad II. Yildirim Bayezid gave the title of Caliph Sultan. He conquered the Nabolu fortress. The Quran comes with it. Also, Berkuk Yildirim, the father of Bayezid I, he will give this Quran section, you see, to the tomb of Murad I in Bursa. 1. The Quran section was gifted to the tomb of Murad I. It was taken from the endowment of Mahmud in the Hagia Sophia library. It means it was placed there for preservation purposes. Again, extremely valuable. Look, ultra, not just any ordinary thing. Look at the album of Sheikh Hamdullah. All of these are one. They all came from the library of Mahmud Bafeh. Who is Sheikh Hamdullah? Sheikh Hamdullah is associated with Hagia Sophia. He is the teacher of Bayezid II. In the Ottoman era, he was the #1 in Ottoman calligraphy. He has a tomb. In Karakamet, an Ottoman calligrapher, upon receiving his diploma, would bury his pen at his tomb. A week or 10 days later, he retrieves it from where he buried it. Thus, he is considered to have received spiritual permission from Sheikh Hamdullah. Murad came out from there and won. It belonged to the library of Mahmud. For example, what you see here is a compilation by Hafiz Osman. Again, one. It also came from the library of Mahmud Basid. These are also pens, meaning calligraphy pens. Look at the perfection of this pen case. These are also from the treasures of Hagia Sophia, reflected to us today from its treasures. Beautiful, magnificent pen cases. Let's move on to here. Osman had a set of pocketbooks. For example, one of these is this. This is a handwritten pocketbook that briefly tells us the history of Hagia Sophia. It is by Shamseddin Karamani, famous for his Persian Talic script. He wrote the history of Hagia Sophia by the order of Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. This tiny book is a history book. When you look at it, inside the Hagia Sophia mosque, there are several tombs of Ottoman sultans. The first sultan buried in Hagia Sophia was Sultan Selim Tegal, Selim. Sultan Murad III, Murad Sultan Mehmet III, Mehmet. Then Sultan Mustafa I, Abraham. They have been buried. These Qurans you see were endowed to the tomb of Sultan Selim II, Selim's tomb, so that those who visit the tomb can read the Quran with these Qurans. Just imagine. This Quran has been placed in that tomb for 500 years. Who has held this Quran for 500 years? Who has held the Quran with gold gilding? Do you see the bindings, the covers, the beauty of the medallions, the corner pieces? Well, there is no art like this. Look at the penwork, the decorations, the flourishes on the pages. Each one is more beautiful than the other. And in front of us is a set that was used for centuries in the Hagia Sophia mosque. These mother-of-pearl inlaid corners, you see, ivory. The main section with mother-of-pearl inlay. This Quran stand is from the tomb of Sultan Ibrahim in the garden of the Hagia Sophia mosque, placed inside the tomb so that those who come to read the Quran for us. In the oil painting you see in the background, there are also the tombs of the second, Selim and the third, Mehmet, are visible. I had just mentioned to you about the juz boxes and the 20-page sections of the Quran. Look, this is one of those juz boxes, and here is another one. For example, this juz box you see here is from the tomb of the third. It was brought from the tomb of Mehmet. The third, Mehmet's tomb had this for centuries and no one damaged it. No one carved out the mother of pearl on it, stole it, touched it, or moved it anywhere. Such a moral society. If we were to place this juz box there today, God forbid, who knows what would happen to it? Yes. This juz box you see here has a round lid. Look, it belongs to the tomb of the princes. In the garden of Hagia Sophia, second, Selim, third, Murad, third. Besides Mehmet, there is also a tomb belonging to the princes. This juz box came from there. One of the greatest desires is at the back of the Hagia Sophia mosque. On the side facing Topkapi Palace first, there is the Mahmud Imaret, to open it to the public for visitation. Another desire of mine is in the garden of that Imaret. There is a round building adjacent to the body of the Hagia Sophia mosque. That round building is the oldest building of Hagia Sophia. Some sources say Constantine, others say second. Theodosius' Hagia Sophia remains. In other words, the treasury building of Hagia Sophia. First, when Mahmud I built the Imaret, that round building was used as the pantry of the Imaret. In later years, the pantry was emptied and used as an archive, where foundation documents were stored. During the reign of Sultan II, Abdul Hamid, he gave an order. He said, let the foundation documents be reviewed, classified, and organized. And with this organization, those documents were meticulously reviewed one by one. Look here, what you see is third, Selim, and the deeds belonging to Sultan Abdul Mejid that you see here are preserved within the structure of Hagia Sophia. That is the oldest historical building. First, either Constantine or second, Theodosius, Treasury Building 1. It emerged from the building that was the pantry of Mahmud. In fact, during the reign of Abdul Hamid Khan, it was taken from there and preserved in the priest rooms of Hagia Sophia. Recently, it was moved from there to the museum archives. At the Hagia Sophia Museum, you come across interesting things that make you say, oh my God, is this here too? For example, I didn't know about the existence of this oil painting you see here until I toured this place. I learned about it here. Look, it shows the Hagia Sophia Mosque. Sultan Mehmet Resat praying at the mihrab. There is a sheikh on the side. As you can see, there are administrators, pashas. Everyone is ranked at the top of the public, some with fezes, some with turbans, some with kalpaks. They have filled the place praying. What you see is a painting, but this event took place in 1917. World War I is still ongoing. The Ottoman Empire is still fighting a relentless battle. All around the world and in this ceremony at the Hagia Sophia Mosque, the title of Ghazi is being bestowed upon Sultan Mehmet Reshad. For example, you are visiting a museum. While touring, you see a fabric in the museum and the fabric is zigzagged. Know that this fabric once served as a covering for the Kaaba. In Medina, at the Prophet's mosque, it once became the kiswa of the Prophet's tomb. That's how it is. The Kaaba coverings are woven and changed every year. The covering from the previous year is removed and a new one is placed. That covering is divided into pieces. It is gifted to different places and individuals in the Islamic world. Of course, in the meantime, a part of the Kaaba's covering is also taken to Medina. It is laid over the tomb of our Prophet, peace be upon him, in a corner of the Prophet's mosque. It is called Kiswa of Happiness. It stays there for a year. Then it is taken and distributed. Here is what you see. The historical banner of Hagia Sophia Mosque from the era of Osman. First, it was the covering of the Kaaba. Then, in Medina, it became the Kiswa of Happiness at the Tomb of Happiness. After that, it became the famous banner of Hagia Sophia Mosque. It is inscribed with, peace of Allah be upon Muhammad, his family, and his companions. Verse 40 of Surah Al-Ahzab. A part of this verse has found its place within the zigzag pattern you see. This cover you see is just one of the door covers of the pulpit of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. Look, it is embroidered with gold threads. There is the Basmala. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful. There is no God but Allah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. It is completely embroidered with gold threads. You see the pulpit? Look, a black and white photograph of the pulpit. The door cover on the door of the pulpit. This was once used as the pulpit door cover of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. In fact, there is a lectern with mother of pearl inlay on the side of the pulpit. Did you see it? That lectern is exactly the one we have in front of us now. It was used in the Hagia Sophia mosque. But if you notice, it is not in a V shape. So this is not a Quran lectern. This is a study lectern. Is the mosque only for praying? Of course not. Many valuable people were coming to Hagia Sophia. Scholars were giving lessons. Students were taking lessons, and the students who were taking lessons were using these valuable lecterns. They were opening their textbooks on these. Truly amazing. A historical photograph, and in front of it, with mother of pearl inlay, the lectern of knowledge in Hagia Sophia Mosque. There is an indispensable detail in Ottoman mosques, not in every mosque, but definitely in Selahattin mosques. Sundials truly require serious knowledge. Not every sundial shows accurately everywhere, because they are produced according to the coordinates of that location. Hagia Sophia Mosque is Istanbul's grand mosque, so wouldn't it have a sundial? Of course it would. Here's one of the sundials of Hagia Sophia Mosque in front of you. Today, it stands on a few sundials. One of them is also under protection here. From standing, yes, when it was last opened for worship in July 2020 in my hometown Manisa Demirci, carpets were woven and laid with the special blue, turquoise Turkish blue color. It turned out very nicely. But let's not forget that turquoise or blue is the color of the Seljuks. The color of the Ottomans is red. It is madder red. Therefore, when we see madder red carpets in Fatih Mosque or Bayezid Mosque today, we should know that red suits Ottoman mosques better. As for Konya Aladdin Mosque, it's Seljuk. Kayseri, Mahberi Hunat is Seljuk. Lay down the Seljuk blue for them. Of course, that will suit them better as well. We see a very beautiful carpet with a mihrab from the Ottoman period. Mihrab carpets. I'm not describing each object one by one, because look, there are different parts coming from the tombs of Hagia Sophia. There are chests and lecterns. I especially want to show this. When this music started, I immediately came here and was in shock. What is this? Do you know what this is? Until the year 2016, in the corners of the domes of the Hagia Sophia Mosque, there are pendentives and angels on the lion chests. Cherubim, seraphim angels. Look, you can see it there. Normally the faces of these seraphim angels were all uncovered from the time Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror converted the structure into a mosque. Until Mahmud IV, they were always uncovered. One, their faces were covered. Look, as you see above, their faces were covered in that form. All four were like this. In 2016, the Ministry of Culture and Tourism made a decision. At that time, there was already restoration work, and the interior was covered with scaffolding up to the top. They said, let's uncover the face of one of them. Are those angels still there or not? Did the Ottomans scrape it off, or did they destroy it? Or are they all still there? This is the cover. This is one of those covers you see. The cover was opened with the edge screws and such. Look, one, Mahmud's era, it was opened, and the faces of the angels were untouched. This is what kind of state the Ottomans were. Not a state of destruction, but a state of repair and revival. It has nothing to do with us. They could have said this angel figure is a problem for us and destroyed it, scraped it off. The Christian world destroyed many of our Muslim works over the centuries. But since we are not a civilization of destruction, what did we do? We only put it under protection, like covered it up. When it was uncovered, if you go to the Hagia Sophia Mosque today, on the upper left of the mihrab, the face is revealed there. The seraphim angels, and there with an unspoiled facial depiction. At the end section of the exhibition area of the Hagia Sophia Museum, between 1934 and 2020, between 1934 and 2020, the Hagia Sophia Mosque was closed to worship. It was considered a museum. This museum, we came. Both the buildings of Hagia Sophia made in the name of Christianity and its pulpit mihrab, and some of the scholarly sections from the Islamic period. They saw the surrounding railings and many other things. And also the Hagia Sophia Museum we mentioned between 1934 and 2020. For a long time it was used as a place where frescoes and icons of some churches which were closed to worship in Anatolia were displayed. Because, as you know, we fought the War of Independence. We saved Anatolia, our homeland, and a population exchange was carried out. The Greeks in Anatolia went to Greece, and the Turks in Greece came to Anatolia. As a result, a great number of churches in Anatolia were left empty. Some of these were converted into mosques, some were used for different purposes, and some were abandoned to their fate. So, today in Fethiye, in the Göcek Gulf on Tasein Island, a historical church is currently being used as a goat pen. I made a video about it at one point. Let me put the link here. If you watch it, some of the icons with historical identity and artistic value inside were collected. They were kept under protection during the period when Hagia Sophia was a museum. A few months ago, when the Hagia Sophia Museum was opened, these frescoes and icons belonging to different churches in Anatolia were put on display here again. So none of these belong to the church period of Hagia Sophia from Anatolian churches. But at one time, they were exhibited inside the Hagia Sophia Mosque when it was a museum. If I were to explain all of these to you one by one, it would take weeks. For example, the scene of the presentation of Saint Zechariah or Saint Mary to the temple, for instance. Look, you can see Imran and Hannah there. Saint Mary, and the Annunciation scene with the angel Gabriel. The famous Annunciation scene of Christianity. We see Hagia, which is Mother Saint Mary, with the baby in her arms. Saint Mary as the guide. We see the Ascension of Jesus. When you go to Jerusalem, it is right above the Mount of Olives. He bids farewell to the apostles and ascends to heaven. He is not crucified. Of course, this is the belief of us Muslims, and some Christians also believe in this way. On the cloth, the face of Jesus. The face of Jesus it is certainly located at the very top center of the iconostasis wall. Doubting Thomas's encounter with Jesus, inserting his finger into the wounds on Jesus' body to see if they really exist or not. Seeing it. Also, very interestingly, in Christianity, there is something called a relic, a holy relic. I mean, we also have holy relics, but they are very rare and only for very special individuals. Like our Prophet, peace be upon him, and the companions, we haven't preserved the hair or beard of some religious figures. There is no such thing. But in Christianity, it exists. They look at some priests, they have cut and preserved the hands and feet of religious figures, of course, after they died. In the churches of Anatolia preserved, look, this is a hand. Do you see his hand? In Christianity, the hand of a holy saint is covered with gold. A very beautiful bone hand is standing there. Of course, it was passed down to us from those churches. These. Look, these are different. Hand reliquaries, arm reliquaries. Here, in this way, they have come to us from those churches. This is a very interesting place on the exhibition floor of the Hagia Sophia Museum. Now, someone who passes by quickly or tours quickly or wouldn't understand this. What is this? They might say. To understand this, you need to look at the details specifically. First, look, let me show you this place. You know Manyas, right? We have a district called Manyas. In Manyas, there's a village called Kokagol. Kocagöl village. There is a church in the village. Look, the church's apse is clearly visible. Later, our people converted it into a mosque. Inside this old church, there are some frescoes from the church period. These were the Christians, the people of Anatolia. They lived in Anatolia for centuries. With the population exchange, we sent them to Greece. Those Christians stuck votive coins on the frescoes you see in the church. Yes, look, this original fresco depicts the death of the Virgin Mary. Do you see the round marks on it? Those circles are votive coins. They come to the church. They stick coins on the fresco and make a vow to God. They make a wish. Look, those coins have fallen off from it and are now displayed here independently, as you see. These coins were examined one by one. Here from Mahmud Tanzi, from Mahmud Ashi to Mustafa, from Sultan Abdul Mashid III. There are coins from many sultans, including Salim. Interestingly, exactly 7 different ones. The Crimean Khan's coin is also among them. Now, for example, if we take the camera and microphone like this and walk around in public showing these, what are these? If we say they're decorative hangings, they'll say. Correct. So what is this? Honestly, I don't know. They'll say they were taken from historical mosques or something. Not from historical mosques, from historical churches. Look at them. These are the seraphim angels found on the pendentives of Hagia Sophia that I just told you about, but from the 18th century, belonging to the 18th century and made in Kütahya. In Kütahya, these ceramic balls with seraphim on them were made to be hung in some churches in Anatolia at that time. When those churches became inactive, they were taken under protection and found a place in the Hagia Sophia Museum. Not only frescoes or votive coins were brought from the Anatolian churches, also some religious garments that were used in those churches at the time, the shawls and capes worn by the priests of that time. These were also brought and kept under protection, especially the Orthodox Church. As you know, Greeks in Anatolia. Anatolian Orthodoxy is very important. These belong to the Orthodox Church. The cups you have seen, spoons used for religious purposes, incenses, and these have also been taken under protection. The last relic of the exhibition section of the museum, and in my opinion, the most meaningful one, here, it stands before us. Look, you see a very interesting scroll. There is a writing across the entire scroll. As you can see, this writing is enclosed within a special fabric. It is wrapped together with the fabric. What you see here is the endowment deed of the Hagia Sophia Mosque, commissioned by Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror himself. Yes, the endowment deed of the Hagia Sophia Mosque. This work dates back to the 15th century. It is extremely valuable and extremely special for us. Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror actually opened the Hagia Sophia Mosque for worship as a mosque. He established its endowment, and at the very end of the endowment he stated, "Whoever changes this endowment that I have established." He added a long curse and malediction section. You saw it. I don't know if it was as much as I said. I think it was. First on 2 floors. We toured in those digital environments. Then we saw the objects one by one in their places. In short, in the ancient long history of Istanbul, the Hagia Sophia temple was both during the pagan period. It had many stories to tell us from both the Christian and Islamic periods. We saw these and we experienced them. We hope that you too, wherever you are, come from those places. Visit the Hagia Sophia Mosque, which is just 2 steps away from us. Then come and experience this historical process in these magnificent digital environments with your spouse, children, and loved ones. Greetings and regards from the Hagia Sophia Museum.